is indeed your boy Tim, the handsome liberal. Once again, probably to the surprise of no one, former President Trump is in the news. Now, I gotta give Trump credit because the guy is a media genius. No matter what else is in the spotlight, Trump is always savvy enough, always smart enough, knowledgeable enough to shift the direction of the media and put the spotlight on him. Now, we can certainly discuss whether the spotlight is good or bad for the former president, but nevertheless, Trump is savvy, has a lot of media intelligence on how to sway the media, and of course, he is in the media. Now, we know Kamala Harris was riding a wave after selecting not JD Vance. Wow, I'm really about to have a Biden moment. After selecting Governor Tim Walz of Minnesota as her vice presidential pick. About to say JD Vance, holy shit. So Kamala Harris was riding the wave, and Trump easily did one single interview and took the entire spotlight from Kamala Harris and put it on himself. So shout out to Trump for knowing the rules on how to govern gaining media attention. He's really good at that. No matter who else is being discussed, what else is being discussed in the media, Trump is always smart enough, savvy enough to bring the media back to him. We're going to talk about whether it's in a good light or not, but right now Trump is the focus. So yesterday, President Trump gave a press conference. We kind of talked about this on last night's show, but my audience on the day show was totally different. So we do want to discuss a few tips, a few tidbits of that speech that Trump gave. I believe it was about an hour and 4 minutes. Trump spoke for about an hour and 4 minutes to the media. Now, once again, in addition to giving Trump a shout out because he knows how to bring the media to himself, I'll also give a man credit for taking questions for over an hour. Something we didn't see normally from Biden, certainly have not seen it from Vice President Harris. But Trump has routinely got in front of the media. So you got to give him credit for that. He's not dodging the media. He does not do that. He enjoys being in the spotlight. But as always, there are always going to be controversial statements to address. And as you see, this video is titled, January 6th was peaceful. Now, President Trump was asked by one of the reporters in regards to President Biden stating that if Trump loses in November, he's going to refuse to have a peaceful transition of power, likely say the election is stolen or something like that, and maybe even promote violence. Now, we can talk about Trump saying go peacefully and patriotically, but a lot of folks have a different opinion on whether Trump was responsible for what happened on January 6th. However, President Trump stated in response to this question, January 6th and the transition from him to Biden was peaceful, according to Trump. He followed up by saying no one died on January 6th. So right off the bat, we have to ask that question. Is that how you recall that day taking place? Side question, maybe somewhat comical, but certainly would ask, since President Trump said no one died on January 6th, do you believe Ashley Babbitt is alive and well? We'll talk about it. Also, before we continue on, we always have at least two different topics. And of course, this speech, this press conference Trump did, it was literally the content gift that keeps on. There's a whole lot of material in it. We're not going to discuss it all today. We don't have enough time. It could easily be 2 or 3 shows because we talked about the size, of his rallies compared to Martin Luther King's I Have a Dream speech. He said he actually had more folks in attendance than Martin Luther King. That's in itself an issue to discuss, which would essentially suggest that President Trump brought more people to Washington really than any other man alive. He really is suggesting that he brought more people to Washington, D.C. than any other man in history. Also, post-birth pregnancy terminations. Trump is stating that Tim Walz, governor of Minnesota in his state, was passing laws favorable to having terminations. We'll try to use terminations. I believe the other word is not necessarily a fan favorite with the TikTok gods. We don't believe in block banning or, censoring language, but we can't control TikTok. So we'll refer to it as pregnancy termination, but I think you know the A word that is the synonym. So Trump talked about post-birth pregnancy termination, suggesting that Governor Tim Walz was allowing it in his state, almost promoting it by law to happen in the 7th, 8th, and 9th months. Now it goes further than that. He suggested that women were giving birth, putting the baby to the side. The doctor was putting the baby to the side, and the mom and the physician would then discuss whether they want to terminate a live birth. So I do want to ask you folks, do you believe what Trump is stating is actually happening in this country? Women are actually giving birth, putting the live child to the side, and having a conversation on whether they want to let the child remain alive. Not adoption, not a safe haven. We're talking about terminating a child's life after the umbilical cord is cut and it's outside of the womb. Do you believe that's happening in America, particularly under the watch of Minnesota Governor Tim Walz, as Trump stated? So this is what we're going to be discussing today. As always, Trump can be very controversial. You know how that is. But a lot of people believe he's accurate. That's what we're going to talk about. The program is, always will be, MAGA friendly. We don't block, ban, or censor anyone for their commentary. You don't have to agree with anybody in the comment section. You damn sure don't have to agree with the host. We run an uncensored program. We go left of Bernie Sanders to I'm having dinner with QAnon. Everybody gets to speak. That's how free speech works. So looking in the comments, if Trump is speaking, he's lying. Oh my God. Kind of reminds me of your statement reminds me of the song by Meghan Trainor. I know you're lying. Your lips are moving. I'm not saying that Trump lies that much. Wow, that's a hell of a statement. Come on now. That sounds crazy. Just some more BS from Trump, says Christopher Bearden. Well, he said it a lot. By the way, Trump is not the only one suggesting that women are having pregnancy terminations after the child is born. Ron DeSantis stated that also when he was running for president, that women are doing that. Going straight to the box. Very controversial. After the child is born, to do something like that. Very controversial. The Friendly Citizen, love the name. Good afternoon. Welcome. I got Nisi. Nisi, good afternoon.
Good morning. How you doing, Mr. Handsome?
Oh, I appreciate it. Thank you.
Ain't nobody unalive and no baby at no 9 months. It's just full of crap just for them to get attention.
So he's not just saying 9 months. He's saying after the baby is even born. Jerry, thank you for the subscription extension.
If any doctor did that, then they should have their license revoked. Yeah. I just don't believe that. It's not true. It's just some rhetoric that he want to talk about all the time. It is not true at all.
So you don't think this is happening anywhere?
No, and double no.
Okay. Well, what about it? You got a loud background. I can barely hear. Say that again.
I said, I'm sorry. I'm at work.
Okay.
I said no, and I don't believe so. No.
What about in the 7th month?
No. That's a baby.
Yeah.
That's a baby. I mean, this is my thing. So, if they don't wait that long, first of all, it's $700 to get it. So, first of all, that's just at $700. You're gonna wait for 7 months. No, it's not happening. It's a baby. And if you're a doctor, you're not gonna do that. You're not gonna do it unless you're going to some underground place and that's illegal already.
Yeah. So why do you think he's saying? Why do you think he's saying this over and over again? If you're saying it's not true, why would he be saying it?
I can't.
Yeah, your background's really loud. I said
Because he wants them to look bad.
he wants what?
Okay. He wants them to look bad. He wants them to look bad.
Oh, well,
Hold on. Yeah, he wants them to look bad.
yeah. Well, it certainly is making folks look like they're outright assassins to take out a child after it's out of the womb.
Right, I understand that there's no doctor no doctor will ever do that. No doctor.
Yeah.
No doctor will ever do that. They're just making up stuff just to make him look bad. And first of all, let me tell you this. This is what made me mad. How are you going to say that you had a bigger crowd at January 6th than MK?
Well,
Is he losing his mind, or he just have a problem with black people? Because it seems like everything that he's directed to is towards black people.
well, he's getting a lot of black votes, Niecy. I mean, compared to Romney, McCain, even Bush, Trump is doing fairly well with black men.
Yeah, because they don't want no woman.
Ooh. So you think even African American men are voting for Trump because they're sexist?
Yup.
Wow.
Yup.
Do you think if that's the case, do you think that Kamala Harris can even pull it off?
You know what? This is what I see. She's getting votes from places. Okay, when Biden was in there was no momentum. Everybody was just in between. Wasn't sure if he was if we should vote for him or not. When she jumped in there, everybody, it's like a new, like we just woke up. The America woke up. Oh, we have somebody not old on this side, not old on that side. We got somebody younger. It's you know what I'm saying? It is a wonderful feeling, as you say, joyful feeling. You know, joyful. Everyone's happy now. Nobody, you know, and back to her not doing press conference. We want Trump to do press conference because every time he do press conference, he say something stupid. So we want him to keep talking. Just keep talking. We want him to talk.
Well, I gotta say, lately, certainly with the black convention, and then what happened yesterday, it hasn't went very well for him. Do you think though he could defeat Kamala in a debate?
Yes, and let me tell you the reason why. Let me tell you a secret. He's smart. I give him that. He's smart. So he wants to do the three things. But you notice he start with Fox first, then NBC, then ABC. So if he goes to Fox, we already know they're biased towards him. So they do a debate. They can probably make her quiet down when she says something. They're gonna mute her mic, and then when it's time to go to the other two, he's not gonna show up. And
wow. So you wait. So you believe Trump would do Fox because Fox is favorable to him in his campaign, but then he's going to skip out on the other debates?
That is correct.
Wow.
Now, if you wanted to really debate her because he don't like ABC, you know, say Fox towards him, he should have did NBC first, then Fox, and then ABC.
Wow. And it's amazing. I gotta say, it's amazing how many folks in the comment section on both, particularly on TikTok, but even on YouTube, folks believe what you're saying is accurate. That he'll do the Fox debate and then skip out on NBC and ABC.
That is correct. Yes.
Wow. You think Trump would really run from Kamala?
Yes. That's why he wanted. Okay, that's why he wanted to do it on Fox.
Well,
he wanted to do it on Fox. Now, I believe if he did it on CNN was fair, even though that's when they were doing Biden and they was very fair to each other. He don't want to do it on CNN. He wants to do it on Fox. Everybody knows Fox is in his favor.
Well, yeah, I don't even think that's up for debate. What about CBS with the vice presidential debate? Walsh versus Vance. How do you expect that to go?
I think it's going to be fair. I mean, I think that would be fair. I think it's fair. I really think they should do NBC. NBC had really never done it before. I really think they should do it on that station. Oh. They ain't biased to either one of them.
Yeah. I don't know with the Fox debate, will there be a crowd?
Oh, yeah, of course, a crowd for him.
All right. Trump does well in front of a crowd.
Yes, we already know that. My crowd is bigger than everybody's crowd.
Bigger than Martin Luther King.
Let me tell you why he said that the other day. So when she was in Pennsylvania, last week. The crowd, you could see that, you could see all the people on the thing, up in the top of the thing. You know what I'm saying? He always say she don't have but 1,000 people at her thing. That's why he came out and say what he said. He know he saw that crowd. He was a little upset about that. And we could see that he's starting to rhetoric with, if I don't win, they cheated. He's already done started that.
So you agree with? So before I'm moving on, you agree with Biden that if Trump loses, he won't peacefully concede?
No, it's going to be worse than January 6th.
Wow, you think so? That bad?
It's going to be worse than January 6th. I go into lives with other, just listening to, people on the other side. And they already talking about they're gonna cheat if he don't win. They cheating if they don't win. It's already planted in their head.
Well, Trump said, because you're saying worse than January 6th. Trump said January 6th was peaceful.
That's what. If he said that was peaceful, imagine what unpeaceful will be to him.
I can't.
And I was sitting there home watching that. If that was peaceful, Jesus, what's the next thing that's going to happen to us if that was peaceful? And the part that nobody died, did he not? Maybe he just forgot about that. He don't want to remember that on that part. He just remembered the crowd. They still had grass in the background, but I'm just saying.
Yeah, he definitely did say that no one died on January 6th. So I don't know I guess maybe Ashley Babbitt doesn't count, or maybe she actually is still alive. I don't know.
And my thing is, if I was their family and he's saying that she didn't die, I would be very upset about now.
Yeah. Well, they support Trump. Ashley Babbitt's mom certainly is a Trump supporter as well, so she's continued supporting Trump even in the absence of Ashley. But I got to move it on, Nisi.
All right.
Good talk.
Thank you for having me. I know my background was loud because I'm at work, but this is I've been trying to get on your live, so I'm glad I was the first one, so I can go on.
All right. Appreciate you coming through.
Yeah, keep up the job. Y'all have a blessed day, y'all.
Appreciate it. Thank you. Moving on with the program. Now, seeing while I was talking to my last guest, while I was discussing January 6th, and I stated that Trump said January 6th was peaceful, folks was like, no, he didn't. Don't put words in his mouth. Didn't Trump refer to January 6th as a good day? Didn't he refer to January 6th as a love fest? Has Trump ever stated that anything went wrong on January 6th at all? The people that are incarcerated or wrongfully being held, they're hostages. So did he not indicate that it was a fairly decent day? What has Trump stated in reference to January 6th to suggest that anything went wrong at all, other than Nancy Pelosi not providing National Guard and supporters of Trump being wrongfully incarcerated? Other than that, what has he said that went wrong on that day? It was a peaceful day, if you ask Trump. Looking in the comments, Trump would never admit something happened on the 6th because legally he's responsible, says Big Smoke. I don't know with the current Supreme Court if that's going to be accurate. I'll go back to the box. I'll certainly solicit that you tap the screen. Get the likes up to about 20,000. You know how the program works. Helps out the algorithm, brings in more MAGA. We are MAGA friendly, always have been, always will be. MAGA November. Is that what it's going to be? Jay Strange. It is going to be a month of commemoration for MAGA. Well, could it be a commemoration suggesting that the era of MAGA is over? Or a new era of MAGA has just begun? What say you? Gabe with the super chat. This woman is delusional, referring to my last caller. This woman is delusional. Trump has showed up to every liberal media debate. Why would he skip now? And I'm kind of on the side of Gabe. I don't think Trump will run from Kamala. It just isn't in Trump's nature, in my humble opinion. Trump doesn't run. I personally believe he will show up. But I could be wrong. Gabe in the comments could be wrong, and we could both end up having to admit, but I do believe that Trump will debate Kamala. I don't see him running from her. I love how you are open-minded to both sides. When we stop talking, that's when violence starts. Tim Rogers, I actually agree with that. You don't silence how someone feels by silencing their speech. They still feel that way. The best solution is to talk it out. So I do agree with that. Thank you for that comment. Going back to the box, tap the screen, get the likes up to about 20,000. You know what we always ask. I don't know how to pronounce that. Does that say Tumla? Let's give it a shot. Good afternoon, Tumla. Welcome to the program. So January 6th, peaceful transition of power. No one died there that day. What say you?
That's one topic I don't like talking about because I've seen a lot of lives, unfortunately, be taken down.
Okay, well let's avoid that. Let's avoid that happening. Let's just go with a simple yes or no. Did anyone lose their lives there that day?
One person did, yeah.
Okay, so why did he say no one?
I'm not sure. Okay. That's a good question for him.
Yeah. I mean, any idea who do you have a name for who may have perished there that day?
I don't remember the person's name, but I know someone was unalived.
Description: woman, man, white, black?
Honestly, I don't remember.
Okay, so you know someone perished, but you have no clue what they look like, their political affiliation, their gender. You have no clue of any of that.
I don't remember, no. I'm not huge on J6. It's not something I'm like super concerned about.
Okay. Do you believe the transition in 2020 from Trump as president to Biden, do you believe that transition was peaceful?
Do I believe it was peaceful? No. Yeah. I believe there was a protest, but I don't think anybody can point to a time, like a historical reference, where someone who had the plans to become a dictator or something like that, had power for 4 years and then gave it up peacefully and then didn't have power anymore without getting the military involved, without getting, I've never, there's no historical reference of that. So in other words, if he's planning on taking over, why didn't he lay that groundwork for the whole 4 years he was in power? Why didn't he get the intelligence community involved to kind of plan up to that event and say, hey, if we lose, I need you guys to. I've just never seen that before, and I'm a libertarian. I don't consider myself MAGA, but I haven't voted in 12 years. But I'm going to vote for Trump, so I don't call myself a Trump supporter. I'm a Trump voter.
Mm-hmm. So just to get clarity, what you're saying is the claims that folks are suggesting that Trump wants to become a dictator, they're basically unfounded.
Correct. So my concern with this election is. I don't know if people don't understand what Marxism is, but Kamala's two parents, her father was a Marxist professor. It's not a conspiracy theory. It's actually in a lot of mainstream media. And her mother was a Marxist activist, and they met in the 60s in a lot of those groups.
Let me interrupt you. Now, what is your name? How do you pronounce it? Tumblr?
Yeah, I got taken down, so this is my backup account. It's my usual name is Tumblr, but I'm from the Northeast, so it's Tumla with the Northeast accent.
Okay, Tumla, you're suggesting that the parents of Kamala Harris, you said were what, a Marxist, and what else?
So you can look it up. It's in The Economist, The New Yorker. Those are not exactly right-wing, papers. Those are left-wing papers. Her father was a very prominent Marxist professor.
Okay, let me respond by saying this. My dad was a crack addict. He has passed away. I've never tried drugs in my entire life. In fact, I've never had a beer or wine cooler. What does what my parents did have to do with me?
Because number one, she uses the language of Marx and Engels. Okay. I don't know if anybody.
Give me some examples. Give me some examples.
She's talking about not focusing on equal opportunity, but focusing on equal outcome. That's basically the theory behind Marxism.
Okay, focusing on equal outcome. Now, what you're saying is simply because she's making this statement that makes her a Marxist?
So hold on. So let me ask you. From each according to their. Do you know Marx?
I know some of it, but I want you to educate me.
Okay, so from each according to their production to each according to their needs. Is that not the same as let's not focus on equal opportunity and let's focus on equal outcome?
I mean, I hate to sound like folks who support Trump, but you might be taking her out of context. I mean, I get what you're saying. It could be interpreted that way. Then again, there's other ways to interpret it.
I don't know. So, I mean, I can go back to her policies, and her policies are socialistic, and she also appointed a VP who calls himself a socialist.
Yeah. So, if you're going to hold her accountable at that level, how do you view Trump saying he want to give police immunity from prosecution? Does that sound like a dictator giving the police immunity?
I mean, that's a whole other discussion, but I don't support that.
Okay, all right. And there's a lot of folks that are not going to support some of the things you're saying in regards to Kamala Harris, but I don't know if because they said the same thing about Obama, that he was a socialist. And after 8 years, I don't see America anywhere near looking like a socialist country. They said the same thing about Hillary Clinton. Every Democrat that comes along is a socialist.
I would disagree on that. So, for example, do you think that nationalizing people's student loan debt is not a socialist program?
I think there are social tenets in any civilized society.
Well, you just said it is socialism, but you said it.
No. You make a good point, but the counter I would say is this: we are a capitalist nation, but if you want pure capitalism, nobody would want to live here. Dialing 911 and having the police come to your house and respond and not charge you a dime, that's socialism. You could be broke, you could be rich. They're going to come and deliver assistance no matter if you have money or not. College can be the same way. Whether you have money or not, you can go for free. It's a social tenet.
That's a far stretch comparing.
How?
Comparing emergency services
public school
emergency services.
Public school is not emergency service. Is that not a social tenet where you can go to school and get a free education from K through 8, whether you have money or not? You want to charge the kids?
So is it so, sir? Here's my point, and here's why I crawled out of my hole to vote this year. And there are a lot of people out there like me. Okay, since the 90s and 2000s. Democrats finally got Republicans to accept programs like Social Security, Medicare, Medicaid, Department of Education. For example, Bush doubled the size of the Department of Education. He also created Medicare Part D. He also invented the stimulus check. So there are a lot of socialist programs that we have that they don't really talk about getting rid of anymore or even changing because it's politically not popular. My problem is the socialism doesn't stop. Now it's, well, what can we do next? I know, let's bail out people's student loan debt. Maybe the next step after that will be the program that they're experimenting in California with. Let's give everybody a basic income. Let's just send them a check every month just because they live here. It doesn't stop, right? And the problem is we are not a fully capitalist society. The more socialism we stack on, the capitalism just can't provide that anymore. And I think a lot of people forget we are $36 trillion in debt. So to put that in perspective, the entire real estate of the United States is worth $56 trillion, okay? So if we were to literally sell all real estate in the United States and pay off our debt, we would only have $16 trillion left over. We have a $2 trillion deficit. So we would actually blow through the leftover in 8 years, and we still wouldn't even be able to fully fund Social Security. So my point is, despite what people think about all of this stuff, that one of these presidents is going to have to break it to everybody. The party is over.
Let me ask you something. Can you name a capitalist country on earth? Give me any, because if we're going towards the socialist, give me a country that's not socialist, one that's capitalist, one that you think where the people are not getting a bunch of free shit.
There are a lot of countries.
Give me one.
Not a lot. There are a few countries in Europe, like Sweden, that have more business freedom than we do. It's not to say that they don't have some social programs, right?
Right.
So I like to call, I'm a libertarian, but I like to call myself a practical libertarian in my old age. I'm 42. I can't be an idealist anymore, right? So Social Security, Medicaid, Medicare, okay, that's fine. But when you start talking about bailing out someone's college debt, I didn't go to college. I worked my ass off 80 hours a week to get to where I am. So why should I have to pay?
How does all of those other countries, the UK, because the difficulty you had in naming a bunch of capitalist countries shows that most of the countries in Europe that are our allies, first world countries, provide all the stuff that you're talking about to their citizens, and they're doing just fine.
Sir, we have contributed to the world's GDP more than any other civilization on Earth. So what I'm saying to you is, as we dismantle, and I'm not saying it's any more now than before, we've been dismantling the free market system since the 60s. So as we continue to do that, we're not going to have a fully free market society. For example, okay, in 2008, we had both parties. We had Obama and Bush, because Obama was going to win, and he had to agree. 2008, Lehman Brothers collapsed. We all thought the world was going to end. So Paulson, Bush, Obama, Pelosi, Paul Ryan, all the rest of the crooks in both parties, they all went in a closed-door room with the Federal Reserve Chairman Bernanke, and they decided how they were going to bail out all the rich and the corporations and the banks, right?
Okay.
Obama ran on a platform of the people to go after the rich, all that good stuff. And what did he do? Right along with the Republicans, he bailed them all out, right? We weren't able to hear arguments on the other side from other economists that said, hey, let them fail. Let good people come in and buy up those assets and buy up those companies, and we'll fix it. We'll have some pain for a little while, but we'll fix it. So fast forward to today, I don't know if people realize half of the Federal Reserve's balance sheet is still from 2008.
Yeah. Well, I would just respond by saying this. Maybe if capitalism was not treating its citizens so bad, they wouldn't be willing to entertain. Hang on. The fact is, the American employee, not somebody sitting on their ass, but the American worker is noticing that they're earning less and less for each hour of work. Fact is, under the capitalist system, people are losing out so bad that they're willing to try these other systems that you're saying are harmful. People wouldn't be wanting to go to be socialists if they weren't doing so bad under the capitalist system. It's not working for a lot of Americans.
So can I ask you a question?
Sure.
Can you point to so you're saying that capitalism is causing this. So can you give one example of how capitalism is causing the current situation?
Sure. Stagnant salaries. Americans walking around saying, I've been working at the same job and haven't had a raise in 2-3 years. Minimum wage not moving in 20 years in some states. That jobs being sent overseas because capitalists want to make more money by hiring Japanese or Chinese children as opposed to Americans. That's all capitalism.
That's not capitalism. I'll give you some examples. So for minimum wage example, I work in retail. I'm a multi-unit manager, so I manage stores across multiple states. I'm not sure if you look at all of the states, but in all of my states, minimum wage goes up every 2 to 5 years. Some states don't, like New Hampshire, for example.
Most southern states have not increased minimum wage in probably 15 years or more.
Okay. And then also, with companies going overseas, do you think that has anything to do with regulations that we put on these companies?
No, it has everything to do with capitalism. They can make a lot more money by paying less for labor in those countries.
So what I'm asking you is, why did they move? So they were here, something changed, and what I would put to you is regulations changed. Regulations in terms of not only access to business. And a lot of these regulations, by the way, are very anti-capitalist because a lot of regulations benefits large corporations. Regulations are a very good way for large corporations to make sure they don't have competition, okay?
Yeah.
But aside from that, a lot of green policies as well makes it very expensive to do any manufacturing of things in the United States. So where do they go? They go overseas.
Yeah,
That's
yeah,
not,
they go overseas. They
so
go
what I'm saying,
overseas.
sir,
They
what
go
I'm saying,
overseas
though,
where
is
they
that
can. They go overseas where they can hire children. They can dump their waste without proper disposal. Yeah, of course. You get rid of the regulation, you destroy the environment.
But sir, those regulations are not capitalism. That's government. That's the.
Right,
So you're blaming
right.
capitalism for government intervention.
Right. So we just remove the regulations and depend on the corporations to do what's right environmentally and by the people. There's no history of them ever doing that.
Yes, there is. We have 250 years of it.
Okay, so in them 250 years, they never made children work. They never sent kids in the coal mines. They paid overtime on their own. They never dumped waste anywhere. They never destroyed the environment. Corporations were just always responsible. Here in America, that's what you're saying.
No, but you don't need to. So the solution is not to make government bigger. I don't think people understand that we have the government today is the largest it's ever been in our history, and we have some of the worst programs going on right now. For example, we are all paying more into Social Security, Medicaid, Medicare, homeless programs, etc., than we have in the past 50 years, and our homeless rates are out of control. People's wages are out of control. So in other words, there are terms out there that you might hear like late stage capitalism. Those were terms created by Marxist professors to excuse the failures of socialism in this country. It's baffling to me that people have a weak understanding of the foundations of this country and the great things we did in manufacturing and basically lifting the world standard.
I think what you're saying. I think what you're saying. I think what you're saying works if you ignore all the evils of corporation. I mean, every regulation that was created wasn't just thought out for no reason at all. The EPA didn't just come around for no reason at all. The FDA didn't just come around. The Food and Drug Administration was created because people would give you bad drugs, sometimes deadly, and tell you it was good for you. Look what big tobacco did. They made billions of dollars for years, for decades, for generations, telling people tobacco was healthy. Imagine what the tobacco industry would be like if we removed the regulations, as you're saying, and let them continue putting cartoons out and promoting cigarettes to kids. That's what you're talking about. Remove the regulations. Let them create jobs.
There's a difference, and here's the big difference. Here's the big difference. Do you think that people can be evil? They're capable of evil.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes.
Do you think that people, by their nature, are capable of corruption?
Some people, yeah. What's the point?
Okay. So, do you believe that evil and corrupt people in these corporations have done things in the past? I agree.
Yeah.
Would you agree?
Yes.
Okay. So, the biggest monopoly in human civilization is government, right? Because at the end of the day, government has a monopoly on force.
Okay.
So if that is true about humans, that they cannot be trusted in some cases because they might be corrupt and evil, why would we want to grow government?
That's a good point. And my answer is simple, because you need a push and pull environment. You can't trust government always. I agree with you, but you also can't trust the corporations. So if they are battling, they're going to both be pointing out the wrongs of each other, and we get some benefit. If we get rid of one, the other one rules. That's why you need government.
I'm not saying to get rid of government, but what I'm saying to you is when things got really bad, the government bailed out the rich and the banks and the corporations. So what I am telling you, sir, is throughout history, and you can see, especially with all the isms in the 20th century, as government grows, those corporations get bigger.
Okay.
I think people don't understand that companies like BlackRock and State Street, all of those giant companies that own a lot of this country, they have greatly benefited to growing government.
All right, so let me ask you then. Now, you would agree that if we go back to, let's say, the late 1800s, the early 1900s in America, there were far less regulations during that time than there are now.
That's not what I'm saying.
No, but that's what I'm asking you right now. Is that true, where there was less regulation back in the late 1800s and the early 1900s for business people? Were there less regulations?
Yeah, you're correct, but you're going from one extreme to the other.
Right. That's why you need a push-pull environment. If you get rid of one, you're going to go from one extreme to the other.
No, my proposition is that, listen, would you agree that we have more effect on our state government as people, you and me, right?
Yeah.
If we think something's going on wrong in our community or in our state, do you have more of a shot at getting something changed going to Washington, D.C. in your car or going up to your state house or your rep's house?
You going to your state house, but you need D.C. if your state tells you to go to hell, like with civil rights.
Right. I agree. And your civil rights are protected by the Constitution in every state. But my point is, isn't it a better halfway solution to start bringing that money back to our homes in our states as the Constitution directs, so that we can have more effect over it?
You can't do that because you can't do it. I'll tell you why. If a state like Alabama's down on the Gulf of Mexico, if they have a major hurricane that comes through and hits them, like Hurricane Katrina hit Louisiana, that state does not have enough money without federal assistance to take care of its own damn people. You need federal involvement. The states can't do it on their own.
They did before.
They didn't do it during those hurricanes.
That's because all their money is going to D.C.
All right, you really think that D.C. is taking all the money from Louisiana and some of these poor-ass states on the Gulf? You believe that?
All I'm saying is that, look, if you look at the time frame of this country from the 70s, because that is where we unpegged the last peg to gold, and we allowed the Federal Reserve to print as much money as the government wants. And if you don't believe me, you can look at the government's own numbers, go to the government websites. At the 1970s, two things look like a hockey stick on a graph. The monetary supply, which is how many dollars are in circulation, and also government spending. They both skyrocketed. And my proposition is, ever since then, it got to a certain point where government gets bigger and our lives become harder.
All right.
As government grows, our standard of living goes down.
Yeah, I gotta move it on, but I gotta move it on. But I'll just tell you this.
I appreciate it.
Yeah, anytime. I'll just tell you this. There was a time in America when we had very little government oversight and regulation, and companies were treating employees like shit. I don't think there's any of us that would want to go back and be an employee during the time in America when corporations had very little to no regulation. I don't think anybody wants to work in that environment. I got to move it on. We disagree, but you're always welcome back.
I appreciate it.
Anytime. Yeah, there's no way I want to work in early 1900s. No fucking way at all. Without that government oversight, you get sick, you're fired. You get pregnant, you're fired. We can get somebody else in there that's not carrying a child. Some regulation is overbearing. I agree with my last caller, but the more government you get rid of, the more loopholes you create for the other side to exploit it. It's as simple as that. They've stopped forcing companies to give folks minimum wage increase. And the result is companies have not gave people minimum wage increase for years. I mean, both sides are corrupt. It's not all coming from the government with regulations. I don't buy into the notion that get rid of bad government and trust businesses to do what's right. That's just my opinion. I appreciate the last caller. Gen X, Tim says, I think I know what you're saying. If you remove facts and reason based on feelings, virtue signaling, and whataboutism, this caller gotcha. This caller didn't get shit. You just lean right. I don't feel that caller got me whatsoever, Gen X, but you certainly got me because you're a fan of the show and I'm a fan of you. Thank you, Gen X. But like I said, to me, the tobacco industry and big oil, how many folks out there believe that, and I'm talking to my conspiracy theorists, that they've created automobiles that can run off of much simpler facets of life? Some folks believe they created cars that can run off water, or cars that could run more efficiently than needing fossil fuel, and the big oil companies bought the patents and threw them away. How many of you folks believe that? That's big business. That's big business. We know what big tobacco was doing, as I pointed out to my last caller, deliberately selling poison. Tobacco, particularly cigarettes, when used as prescribed, kills. It kills. It makes people sick and ill. There are no medicinal benefits to tobacco, yet they were telling the citizens tobacco was good for you. They didn't have any regulations back then. They didn't have any regulations of putting character. Most of us, if you grew up during my era, 70s, 80s, they had cartoon characters smoking cigarettes. They're promoting cigarettes to children. No regulations. They're focused on making money. That's what happens when you start removing regulations. The people want to make money. They don't give a damn about your safety. Do you really believe if you got rid of OSHA, corporations would still continue dumping toxic waste responsibly if you didn't force them to do it? You really think they would do that? I could save millions every year by dumping this shit in some neighborhood that's vacant as opposed to going through the proper. You really think they would do that if you remove that regulation? You really think they would make sure all of our wildlife continue to exist if they could make money by hunting and selling the proceeds? Meat, fur, ivory, you name it. If I could make money taking out bald eagles and selling them for whatever, I would take out every damn eagle I could spot. You had to tell somebody there's only a limit of how many of these things you can hunt. You wouldn't have any crab, any lobster in the ocean. Big business would take all of that shit. No regulations, huh? And we think corporations are going to do what's right. We disagree. Let me go back to the box. There's just a history, a lengthy history of how corporations acted before these regulations came. None of this stuff was created in a vacuum. It was created because corporations were destroying the environment, destroying the wildlife, and human beings entirely. Moo, good afternoon. Welcome to the program.
What's up, man?
What am I getting wrong? Are we too heavily regulated?
No, man. Actually, the main problem that you have is what I always tell you, right? He's right about corporations. The part that he misses is they bribe your politicians, right? That's where the problem really comes in, right? That's why we don't regulate. The reason we don't regulate is because they bribe all the politicians so that they can't regulate the corporation.
Well, shit, he said there's too much regulation now. He said there's already too much.
Well, I mean, that's just, that's a silly point of view, and I don't know how old that caller is or what he's been, but I watch trickle-down economics get implemented, right? I watch the transfer of wealth from the middle class to the rich. I know what happened with George W. Bush and trickle-down. And again, Clinton comes into office, gives us a surplus. Bush comes in, 9/11 happens, blows the budget on a fake war that was, put on a lie. And so my whole life I've seen Republicans screw up the economy, and Trump screwed up the economy too. The whole time I've seen Republicans screw up the economy, and then the Democrats have to come in and get some sort of balance again. Not that they do now. Now I'm hopeful they'll do all the things they need to do now that Walz is with Kamala, right? But they needed to be far more progressive than they've been, especially over the last 50 years.
So that's why you kind of favorite Tim Walz. And you said Tim Walz. Now, I hate to even repeat this, but because you said it, you said Tim Walz is like Bernie Sanders.
Yeah, man, he is, except, he's more like an attack dog, right? Like, Bernie is great, man, and his policies are amazing, but he doesn't attack people enough, you know what I mean? He's very passive sort of person. Walz is more of a go-get-you kind of guy, and he gets stuff done, man, because he has a 60-60 split Senate, I think it is, in the state of Minnesota. So the dude is amazing at bending Republicans to his will, you know what I mean? So the guy gets shit done.
And you think that type of Minnesota politics could work nationwide?
Of course, again, understand even with all the programs he did, right? The fiscal budget this year for Minnesota, it has a projected $3.7 billion surplus. So you have to understand something. Walz is the real deal, man. He is a real progressive. He implements policies that are good for the middle class. He balances budgets because all of the things he does always gives you return, right? When you make policies for the middle class, you see returns on those policies through stimulation of the economy, through a more well-educated population, right? Through better medical care of the population. So all these things benefit Minnesota. you know?
Well, why are you giving Walls credit for what he did in Minnesota? Daku on YouTube says Walls got his whole city burned down.
I mean, as far as I know, Minnesota's still there, right? Do you want to go drink a beer there with me, man? I'm pretty sure there are still bars and stores and malls and everything still standing, man. So, I don't go into these narratives. What I'm telling you is every year that Walz was in office, right, he cut taxes for small businesses and the middle class, and he gave rebate checks up to $1,300 to seniors, veterans, and all kinds of people in his state, man. So the reason MAGA is upset is because they know that Walz has amazing policies, and he doesn't take any corporate money. This is a huge advantage that he has over MAGA at this point, because MAGA's corrupt as fuck, man. But Walz got all his money from unions, my dude. There is no corporate money there. MAGA's going to run into real problems. I mean, they already are with the bullshit that they're coming out with. So
you said MAGA is corrupt as fuck. What do you elaborate? What's making you say that MAGA is corrupt?
Donald Trump hosted an event at Mar-a-Lago in April asking the oil companies for $1 billion. Donald Trump took $110 million from Miriam Adelson. Jared Kushner took $2 billion from the Saudis. Trump also got money from Egypt. So the whole time he was in office, he blackmailed the president of Ukraine. That's why he was impeached, right? So this dude is corrupt as fuck, you know what I mean? And the guy is just, I told you last night, he's a lunatic, right? So the thing is Walz can attack them on their corporate money because he doesn't take any. And you had the leader of UAW, I watched his speech the other night, come out in favor of Walz, man. That's huge at this point, dude, because that guy is well favored by the middle of the country, man.
Well, when you talk, because I used to be part of the United Auto Workers Union. I mean, the thing about it is, if you pro-union, I mean, if that's simply what you're voting on is unions, favoring unions, the strength of unions, I mean, you probably should go liberal over any Republican.
So understand, right, though? But if you're not in favor of unions, that means you're in favor of right to work. So what you're advocating for with right to work is they can fire you for any reason that's not discrimination or a protected class, right? Yeah. So Republicans want you to be able to lose your job without cause, basically, right? While Walz wants you, if your job is going to get rid of you, man, he wants them to have a good reason to be able to fire you. That's the benefit you get with a union. So they can't just get rid of you all willy-nilly for whatever reason that they want.
Yeah, I never understood. As somebody who worked in the union, I worked for United Parcel Service as an unloader and as an engineer with AT&T. I never could understand why so many Americans went anti-union. You are always better off financially, benefit-wise, job security-wise in a union than doing the same thing, leaving your security up to a corporation.
They'll tell you that unions get bad people, but there are bad people without unions too, my dude. Yeah. Look at Enron. Look at Enron, right? They were totally non-union, and look at what a catastrophe that was. So it even swings harder in the private sector that's non-union. They have much bigger catastrophes and much, much worse people than you'll ever find in a union shop. You know what I mean? A union facility.
Well, I think the mistake is focusing only on, because the notion is that if you're a union employee, it's hard to fire you and all of that. But what they don't realize is that if you are a non-union employee and you are a good employee, the corporations don't have to reward you. They can still fire you and treat you like shit.
I mean, I'll tell you right now, I work for the local state, so I'm in a union, man, and we have step programs that make you sure you get guaranteed raises. We renegotiate our contract every 4 years. I mean, you have salary ranges that you can negotiate, titles that can help you get more money you can negotiate. There's so many options for employees with a union. There's no way you're going to get the same benefit in the private sector. Plus, you're going to get the best health insurance, considering how crappy our system is. You are going to get the best health insurance plan possible because unions get the best health insurance plans.
Well, before I move it on more, you got a detractor. Grandpa Barney says, this guy is full of crap. Dems have destroyed the United States of America.
Yeah, so what I would tell you is he has no policies, right? He makes these boastful statements, but I can tell you a bunch of policies that Walz did in Minnesota that worked for them, right? I've gone over policies time and time again with you here. I'll even do another one. Walz did like a $2.3 billion investment in education, in public education in Minnesota, right? And that's the largest investment in public education in Minnesota history. And again, keep in mind, this guy balanced the budget. So if Republicans want to come up here and say, well, where's the money going to come from? How can we do that? Well, he balanced the budget, guys. They have a $3.7 billion surplus. He also did school lunches and breakfast, not just for public schools, but for private schools too. So keep in mind, again, people will try to trick you and tell you that when you do policies for the middle class, oh, where's the money going to come from? They have the money. They can figure it out. And Walz is the guy that's already done it. So it's proven that it can work.
All right, Moo. Good conversation as usual. Thank you for coming through.
Yeah, man, you have a good one.
Anytime. And I will say this. This is where you get the difference between left and right, and certainly where I start to show a little bit of my left-leaning mindset. The left tends to be more critical of corporations, certainly of wealthy folks and things like that. That's what the left is more critical of people at the top, and they're more favorable to people at the bottom. Now, that does leave a lot of people at the bottom to have the ability to scam the system and things like that, whether they're welfare cheats or lazy workers. But the left is more favorable to people at the bottom and critical of people at the top. The right is the opposite. The right is more favorable to people at the top. They believe they work hard to get their money. They shouldn't be facing regulations or told what to do. And they're more critical of people at the bottom. You're there because you didn't work hard enough. You're asking for help because you were lazy. You didn't do what was right, which is why a lot of folks suggest that the right is is defenders of the rich. But anytime you hear somebody criticizing the wealthy, it's usually the left. Anytime you hear somebody criticizing people that are poor, it's usually the right. It is what it is. You got the left believing that people should get a minimum wage. People on the right will tell you you're the idiot for working at that job for so damn long. People on the left will say that employer is wrong for not raising that wage. So that is the difference. The left is favorable to the bottom and critical of the top, and the right is just the opposite. Look it in the comments. And thank you, Mr. Java. By the way, I wanted to show some appreciation for the subscription that came from Jerry and Mr. Java. Thank you. Then they'll go to another planet. I don't know what that means. Why do poor whites vote Republican? Everybody don't vote based on the economy. There are other reasons why you may vote. I mean, for instance, a lot of whites live in rural areas down in the South. The Republicans tend to be favorable to farmers and people that are in those communities, whereas the liberals are more favorable to urban areas. That's where most of the liberals are. So if you live in a farm, you don't want some urban politician in there telling you how to live your life when you don't live like people in urban America. Could be one reason. Trump has already stated that he currently believes there is an anti-white sentiment in this country and that there is bias towards white people. Trump said that recently. That would certainly be a reason if you're white to vote for him. I damn sure tell you, if someone said that to black people, there's an anti-black sentiment in America and people are being biased to black people. And if you vote for me, they're going to get the black vote. Well, Trump said it to whites. So it should help him with the white vote. I do believe he stated the other day he is doing exceptionally well with white males. Well, he's spoken favorably to white males on most occasions. So it will likely pay off for him. Moving on with the program, Naeem Barber, thank you for the super chat, said, unless the rich want to help the poor, then they're elitists. And before I move on with the program, by the way, tap the screen, get the likes up to about 50,000. Got about 500 of you folks in here. You can certainly let your thumbs not be lazy. Tap the screen, get the likes up. Same on YouTube. Smash that like button. Get your boy to about 65 on YouTube. The 3 dots at the top of your screen gives you access to the like button. I have never understood why Americans moved away from unions. Alter Ego, thank you. Appreciate that subscription, love. I never understood why, because the notion is if you work in a union job, lazy folks can get paid the same as you without having to do all the work and things like that. So a lot of Americans did not like seeing lazy folks holding down jobs they didn't deserve, getting the paycheck they didn't deserve. So they fought to get rid of unions, in my opinion, not realizing what you're doing is kind of hurting you too. Because, okay, I work hard as hell, but he's lazy as hell and the employer can't fire him and he's hurting our whole floor. So get rid of the union so the employer will have an easier time firing him. Not realizing he now has an easier time firing you too. A lot of folks believe that if you simply go to work, put in a hard, honest day's work, the employer would treat you right. Therefore, you don't need a union. That is patently false in many cases. The goal is to pay you as little as possible. Corporations are not looking to reward you. They're looking to cut labor costs. I don't care how hard you work. If I can save money by laying you off and opening up a cheaper plant somewhere else in a different part of the country, your hard work don't mean shit to me. So what? You worked hard, didn't ever called off sick, 20 years of your life you came in every day. I found out I could pay somebody $6 an hour less than you down south. I got to lay you off. There's no reward for that. So I don't understand why people tend to believe that if we get rid of unions and just come to work and give an honest day's work, the corporations will treat us right. There's a lot of Americans out there that can tell you that that's bullshit. Look at it in the comments. Grandpa Barney, thank you for the Galaxy Alter Ego. Thank you for that support. Appreciate it. Grandpa Barney, I'm a man of the IBEW, International Brotherhood of Electrical Workers, Local 77, and I will never vote Dem, ever. International Brotherhood, the IBEW, when I was with AT&T as a telecommunications specialist, and I was in the IBEW. What Local 77? That almost sounds like, it's been a while. That almost sounds like you're in the same local. Are you in Illinois? Wow. Why would you? I don't get it. If you're union and you are anti-Democrat, maybe the economy, maybe abortion rights, maybe, Ukraine might be an issue. But for your union, voting Republican is not in the best interest of unions. But maybe you have other Second Amendment, maybe you have other issues why you're voting Republican, even though you're in a union. But Republicans are anti-union. They're not favorable to unions. He's a bench warmer. Wow. And I see your comment, Stephen. You said ask him why. I'd like to know, why would you vote Republican if you're in the union? Like I said, unless there's something else concerning you. Continuing on with the program, we'll go to another subscriber, Leslie. Good afternoon. Now, asking that question, we were kind of off topic, but President Trump stated a bunch of interesting things, such as no one lost their life on January 6th, and it was a peaceful transition of power. Good afternoon, Leslie. Miss Leslie, are you there? All right. Apparently, Miss Leslie is working. All right, we'll keep it moving. He's like chicken for Chick-fil-A. Chick-fil-A got some good-ass chicken. I don't know what you mean by that, but he needs one of those minimum wage jobs his whole life. Wait a minute. He needs one of those minimum wage jobs. His whole line of thinking would change. I do believe that. A lot of folks who continue fighting against giving a minimum wage increase, yeah, they need to be required to work one of those jobs and try to do whatever they want to do, whether you're working there as a burger flipper, a teenager, or whether you are a school bus driver, a CNA, or somebody getting paid less than $15 an hour as a full-grown adult. Let them try to work that job and see how difficult it is to live off of that salary day in and day out. To tell these folks you don't need a raise or you stupid for still working here, we're not going to give you a raise, it's up to you to leave and go somewhere else, knowing that they don't make a lot of money to begin with. So migrating to something else is going to be equally as challenging. I mean, just no sympathy at all. Been there, did that. I'm not for raising the minimum wage. I don't get it. I don't get why so many Americans, to me, it's almost the equivalent of being cruel. I just don't understand why so many Americans, a lot of us are only one, paycheck or one layoff or termination from being one of them people ourselves. We got far more love and adoration for people that make insane amounts of money that we'll never be than people who are struggling that we're very familiar with. I don't, for the life of me, understand it. Let me try it again with DD. Good afternoon. Welcome to the program. Living paycheck to paycheck. Yeah, I think that's a large portion of America. Paycheck. And it's not that they're sitting home lazy on their ass getting welfare. They're working for corporations that don't pay them like shit. Corporations that are enjoying the reduced regulation, forcing them to pay a livable wage. Isn't that what Bernie Sanders used to talk about? People kept shooting them down. A livable wage, that's socialism. We'd rather have capitalism and leave it up to your employer in the free market to decide if you deserve a raise or not. Obviously, the free market is never going to want to give you a raise because they're trying to cut the cost of labor, not reward you for it. The box is problematic today. Bring back the gold standard. What is that? Elaborate on that. I mean, I'm trying to bring guests up, but the box is problematic. They want to put America first unless it's helping the average citizen. Yeah, you know something? Why the box is reset? And I'll say this. There's no shortage of folks on the right that will tell you, as opposed to sending money and things like that to the Ukraine, why don't we take care of Americans first? Sending money overseas, why don't we take care of... But then when you actually start breaking it down to what is taking care of Americans, they're not in favor of any of it. I don't want to give you health care. I don't want to pay for your college. I don't want to pay, to give you a minimum wage, even though you're going to... I'm not for doing anything to actually help you. So, and that's why I always bring up, we just started sending assistance to the Ukraine. They got attacked in February of 2022. And now everybody's saying, well, instead of sending them help, why don't you take care of Americans first? And my response is, you notice there's no politicians, particularly on the right, boasting about how much they were doing for American citizens before the money went overseas. We were able to do all this for the homeless. We were able to do all this for people that needed health care. But now we got to send the money to the Ukraine, and now Americans are struggling. Notice they're not saying that because they weren't doing shit for them before the money went to the Ukraine. They were telling them to pull themselves up by their bootstraps. So even if I just ask, let's say the Ukraine defeats Russia, gets Russia out of their damn country, starts their import-export market back up, and becomes a financially efficient country again. Let's say Ukraine, this is fantasy, but let's say Ukraine gets everything back on course. They're importing and exporting goods, making money, and they refund every dime they owe to the United States. Is there anyone watching this program that thinks your life will get better? Is there anyone that believes that anything you're going through, the government's going to help you with it? The idea is that if we didn't send them money, they would be helping us. Is there anybody that believes that was going to happen? Was it happening before we sent the money to the Ukraine? Dencal, appreciate it. Thank you for the underwater Coro. Let's see if you can come up because the box is really bad today. I hate to be rambling on, but I'm trying to bring up guests. Use it for the wall. Yeah, there you go. We'll use the money for the wall. Dencal.
Hey, what's going on?
I think apparently I'm getting a lot wrong on this.
Well, talking about that subject, I've had a similar conversation with people before, and one person was saying, I don't want my tax dollars going over to, help Ukraine. We spent 160 billion, whatever the amount was. We spent 160 billion, and we could be doing stuff for people here at home. Right. And I said, well, before the wars started and we started helping people with the wars, show me the Republican policy legislation plans to do these things?
Right.
Where's the plan to help out the veterans? Where's the plan to help out these poor people that's living on the street? Where are the plans to legislate this stuff? Because far as I can...
You dropped out, didn't Kelly? I will say this. We'll give him a chance to reset. I don't know what just happened, but Republicans are pro-veteran. Hold on. You dropped out, but Republicans are pro-veteran. There are plans to help out veterans, but I'm talking about just regular struggling Americans, no concern at all. You there?
No. And if you... Yeah, I'm here.
You got a bad signal. That's what's happening.
Can you hear me?
You're going in and out. Go ahead. I'll try it again.
Yeah, can you hear me now?
Yeah, I got you.
Okay, the people, look, the whole reason behind a lot of this stuff that people talk about, as far as, they want to keep money out of politics, they want to get rid of government and all of that stuff, they have to understand that Citizens United was the root cause of all of this money in government. They've allowed the billionaire class to have more of a say in our elections than we have.
Yeah.
When Elon Musk can go to Trump and say, I'm a funnel $45 million a month to your campaign. Now we've seen the candidate actually switch his position on EVs. That is direct.
Now I will say two things. First, Elon Musk came out and said he's going to donate good money to Trump, but he did say $45 million. I'm donating a lot less than that, so that's not true. But you are correct. Now that Elon Musk is on the Trump train, Trump has changed his entire spiel about electric vehicles. He has certainly done that. So it's pretty clear that Elon Musk's financial influence is already changing Trump.
Right, and instead of the Republicans being able to admit that, they will just ignore that. They will just ignore that, and they will call everybody else a corporate shield and all of this stuff when he's doing it right in our face. Yeah. He's basically saying he's allowing policy to be affected by somebody giving him money. He told the oil industry, "Give me $1 billion towards my campaign, and I'll make sure I get rid of any regulations that are affecting the oil industry."
Yeah. And I see somebody in the comments, a few people that are disagreeing with what we're saying. And somebody said that Trump is not for electric vehicles. He says hybrids. Trump's stance, let's just say it like this. Trump's stoic stance on electric vehicles has softened. You can word it any way you want. But if you look at how Trump is referring to electric vehicles now, it is different than it was before Elon Musk started supporting them. There's no denying that.
And he even said it out loud. He said, now that Elon's supporting me,
yeah,
he's changed his position. I mean, it's like he just needs to just slap people in the face and they just say, well, no, that was me. I ran into his hand.
Yeah, I think this one is undeniable. I mean, Trump was making jokes about the range of the cars and the batteries. I mean, he has completely changed his stance. He ain't like going around saying you need to buy an electric car right now, but he certainly has softened up on electric cars significantly. He was like literally just ridiculing them before Elon Musk started supporting them. So the idea that he ain't changed at all is flat out bullshit.
And Elon Musk is one of them people we were talking about as far as unions. He is fighting tooth and nail to prevent Tesla from ever having unions at his plants. So now we know that ideology is going directly into Trump doesn't want unions. None of the rich, the elite people want unions. Walmart doesn't want a union. Google doesn't want, nobody wants a union because they get to control how much money they get to pay people.
Well, it makes sense. It would make sense. No big business is going to want a union. A union is going to be a push-pull. A union is going to demand that you pay your workers a certain wage when your goal is to reduce the cost of labor as much as you can. So, yeah, unions are bad for big business. They don't like it because they get to pocket less money.
Right, but then you have people like one of your other commenters saying, basically, they in a union and they don't like the Democrat. It's like the people that are fighting for you to make a higher wage, they don't like that. They have done a great job, and I don't want to say brainwashing people, but sending out a message. I don't know how else to frame it, like to make people say, I don't want more money myself. I don't want more money, and I don't want everybody else to make more money. I'm cool with Elon Musk, building satellites and, another place so he can go if something happens to it. I don't care about that stuff. I don't want to make more money.
Well, I think it's a simple matter. As I mentioned earlier, the left is more critical of big business and wealthy people, and they're favorable to the poor, and the right is the opposite. I think the right tend to believe that if you leave businesses alone, they generally will do the right thing. Trickle-down economics is the perfect example. If you do better for them, they will, in turn, just simply do the moral thing, the morally correct thing, and they will trickle down some of that wealth. They don't view big business as potentially being greedy or trying to hurt, do only what's best for themselves. They believe big business is, for the most part, good partners.
Well, we have an example that's right in front of our face.
So we got a lot of examples.
We saw Trump give. We saw him give what he calls the biggest tax break in the history of the world, and he lowered the taxes so that those people could repatriate their money from foreign lands and bring that money home, is what he said. All they did was brought the money home. They put it in corporate corporate pay raises, stock buybacks. They did not put that money to use for the American people. Yeah. We have an example. It's not like we don't know what will happen. We've seen them try trickle down with each president, Republican president, going back. I mean, I can't even, maybe Reagan probably.
Reagan is the one where trickle down kind of started. Yeah, Reagan is the one where trickle down kind of started. Yeah, I got to move it on though, DeCal, because you're a little bit flaky, but I can certainly hear you. But I do got to move it on.
Oh.
All right, and
all right, good thing.
Anytime. In the comments, someone stated that big business helps the economy if the taxes are right. Like I said, nothing's 100%. There are plenty of big businesses. If you give them a tax cut, they'll expand, they'll create jobs, and it will indeed help the economy. However, that's not an absolute. There are some other businesses where if you get him a tax cut, the CEO may just go out and remodel his kitchen or buy a second home or buy a Corvette. You don't know. You're just leaving it up to the businesses and hoping they're going to do what's right. And also keep in mind, money has to come from somewhere. Something the right always says, nothing is free. Well, if you give big business a tax cut, that's money the government no longer is getting that they were used to getting. Where do you think that comes from? You think they just live on with all of that money missing? No, it comes back to the middle class. If you give the big businesses, like in Trump's case, I believe he gave the working class, you and I, a tax cut. What was it? It was not an infinite. It was a finite tax cut. It had a certain period of time and it expired. The big businesses got a much longer period. Some say forever. Okay, once our tax cut expires, we're going to be making up some of that lost money that they're no longer getting from big business. So essentially, the wage gap on the social ladder grows because they're going to make up the missing money from them by getting it from us. So now you are bringing home slightly less, and they're still enjoying that tax cut, so they're bringing home slightly more. That's how you spread the wealth apart, not around. Spread the wealth apart. Looking in the comments, they need to learn more about big business. In regards to what? We had 6 employees, now we have 4. People have to be let go because of Biden and Harris. Depends on what industry you're in. But I will say this. Let's say, for instance, you have a law firm. 2 or 3 lawyers, they got a few secretaries running around, maybe a few other folks to go out and serve, process service they hire or whatever. A small business, that is a small business. A few lawyers, a few folks answering the phone calls, a few paralegals, a small law firm with maybe 10 people. If you give them a big tax cut, because lawyers sometimes can make a ton of money off of settlements, they may not need to hire anybody else. They may be fine with the amount of people they have. You may have an attorney that's been in practice for 20 years. I don't want any more cases. I make plenty now. I'm not trying to take everybody's not going to automatically expand and go on a hiring spree if you give them a tax cut. Some people are just going to pocket the money. So the idea that if you give wealthy folks money, they just go, help the economy. No, some of them going to put it in the bank. Some of them are just going to pocket the money and put it in the bank and let it sit there. Maybe use it as, this is going to be part of my kid's inheritance. It'll be sitting there until I pass on. Everybody all money don't trickle down like that. And somebody says most. All right. So getting to the actual gist of the show, we got way off topic. President Trump said no one lost their life on January 6th. It was a peaceful transition of power. That's what Trump stated. That's what we're actually talking about. I understand in the comments, I think that says weeb or weed, but it's with a B as in boy, W-E-E-B, dragon. Weeb dragon types in the comments, the last word is not necessarily a word. It's not a real word. It's not in a dictionary. You won't find it in Webster's anywhere. But the word is spelled N-I-G-W-A. It says I'm a N-I-G-W-A. Interesting. Now, I don't know if the censors on YouTube would allow you to type anything that's more legible than that, but all right, Weeb Dragon, shout out to you. I'm sure you got a bunch of African-American friends and you hang out around the playground. Marin, thank you for the super chat. You will own nothing and you will be happy. It's words coming from corporate. Yeah, let me give you, before I go on go back to the box, and I appreciate you folks tapping the screen. Get the likes up to about 60,000. How many of you folks have worked for a major corporation that celebrated a really profitable quarter where that corporation made millions and they celebrated by giving you an extended lunch and a few slices of pizza? That's trickle-down economics. The guy you worked for got a bonus. The guy he worked for got a bigger bonus. The guy who worked for him the bonuses got bigger and bigger at the top. You did all the work and you got a couple slices of pizza. How many of you have worked for a company that has done that? That's trickle-down economics. That happens. Most major corporations around America, that is how they reward their employees when they do very well. You get a couple slices of pizza and maybe an additional 10 minutes of lunch. Trickle down my ass. Let me go back to the box. Trickle down. All right. It's humorous. Been out here 50 fucking years. I ain't seen no trickle down. Going to Stephen. It's humorous. Stephen Ball. Good afternoon. Welcome to the program. Quarterly bonuses here, no pizza. Yeah, and I guarantee you, most Americans are not getting quarterly bonuses. That's something that puts you above the fray. Just the box is problematic. I cannot take calls. The company I work for gives us bonuses also. I would submit to you that most of working America that makes less than $60,000 a year, they don't get bonuses at all. And the average salary in America is less than $60,000 a year. The average American is working somewhere that they're not likely to get a bonus at all. Yeah, some of you guys can come in here with much better statements about how you make it. That's not typical America. Look up what the average American salary is, and you'll realize people that make that and less than that are working somewhere where they don't get bonuses. Or if they do, it is so damn low, it's irrelevant. It's so low, it's irrelevant. So yeah, if you're making six figures, well up there, you're in middle management, yeah, you probably do get some bonuses. It's not most of America. Most of America makes less than $60,000 a year, and they likely work somewhere that they will never see a bonus. They're lucky if they get the 2 to 4% pay raise annually. That's it. That's it. Looking in the comments, and when they cut them taxes, they're not even worth having. Yeah. I think some people just, when you focus on big business and these big ass macro numbers, people are out of touch with reality. I mean, businesses, if you look at America over the last 30 years or so, big business has done exceptionally well. If you look at how much the income increases are, profitability, or how much the profits are for big business, it's grown astronomically. If you look at people in the bottom, I'm talking about the average salary, 60 grand. If you look at the average salary for Americans and look how much that has grown, you can see what the difference is. The average salary for middle management, upper management, compared to the average salary for the entry level. We're not talking about dollar for dollar. We're talking about percentage-wise. Percentages. The average salary for people at the top, the percentage has grown significantly. The percentage for people at the bottom, some cases is negative. In some industries, it's actually negative. They make less when you adjust for inflation. It's negative numbers. And you really think big business is going to do what's right? $500 after the taxes, $225. Yeah, but you do qualify for a bunch of shit that you'll never be able to buy with that $500. That's what I say about, here's something I say about the right and left, since I'm having a hard time bringing up guests. A lot of folks want Trump back in office because they favor Trump's economy. Nothing wrong with that. A lot of people did very well under Trump. But here's my personal spiel. I got 3 college degrees. I owe a hell of a lot of money in student loans. Nobody forced me to take it out. Nobody put a gun to my head. I owe the money. But I will tell you this, when you compare Trump to the liberal counterpart, $2 gas, low inflation, whatever you're hoping for Trump to bring, there is absolutely nothing Trump can do with the American economy that would benefit at least people like me more than having those student loans forgiven. If I had my student loans forgiven, I would be saving hundreds of dollars per month. $2 gas ain't gonna make that up. Low inflation, lower cost of groceries, none of that's gonna make that up. I would do way better financially with somebody that's gonna give me universal health care. And for just simply those 2 things, universal health care, because I got high blood pressure. I go to the doctor for every damn time you go to the doctor, you're getting a charge out of pocket. And I got insurance. I got health care. Those 2 things, assistance with all of these damn health care bills that we all get, and forgiving my college loans. Nothing Trump or any Republican can do to the economy that would come close to the difference those 2 things would make in my life. And the liberals are offering those 2 things. Now, I will say this. Many would say it's free shit. It is. It is free shit. Those loans I took out, nobody put a gun to my head. I'm responsible for those loans. But the way I say it is like this. Let's say I jump in the deep end of the pool and I don't know how to swim. Now, in real life, I know how to swim. But let's say I don't know how to swim one damn bit. And I jump into a deep end of the pool, jump into a damn river. And it's my fault. Nobody made me jump in the river. I did it voluntarily. And I'm sitting there struggling for air, struggling to float because of my dumbass decision. And I got 2 people on shore looking down at me. One's a Republican, one's a Democrat. The Republican is saying, nobody made you get in there. Nobody put a gun in your head and made you do that shit. Find a way out. The Democrat guy is trying to throw a life preserver in the water. What am I supposed to do? It's my fault. Nobody made me jump in. But one of those guys is trying to throw me a life preserver. The other one, you did that. Nobody made you do it. You need to figure it out. What am I supposed to do? That's kind of what a lot of Americans are dealing with in some of this stuff. Look at it in the comments. Tim, some people have paid their loans off, but the interest is killing us. That's what I'm talking about, the life preserver. One side is throwing you a life preserver. The other side is saying, nobody made you jump in. You need to figure it out. Look it in the comments. Travel Man. Good afternoon. Let me try. The box is really problematic. Republicans, the Republicans believe that no matter what you're in, you got yourself in it. You need to look. If you're not getting paid much, it's your fault that you didn't get an education, or you got an education in the wrong subject, or you got pregnant early, or you dropped. Whatever is happening to you, it's your fault. Self-reliance. You need to figure it out. You need to figure it out. Just like I did. Pull yourself up by your bootstraps. So that's what you're dealing with. I always say when I'm comparing the parties, generally, and I know a lot of you folks may disagree, not being able to bring up anybody in the box, damn, this is problematic, but I do believe that the right tends to have more of we used to have these shirts when we, walking around the streets of Chicago back in the 90s, we used to have these shirts that would say, don't ask me for shit. You put it on the front of a t-shirt. You should sell these t-shirts, gas stations. Don't ask me for shit. And I tend to think that's kind of the mindset of the right. Look, I found a way to get where I'm at, and you need to, don't ask me for shit. I mean, whatever you're asking for, food stamps, free lunch, college, healthcare, I found a way to provide that for myself and my family. You need to as well. Don't ask me to help you out with your stuff. Don't ask me for shit. And somebody said that's the Christian way. Okay. I've seen the comments you guys are saying you need to restart the live. Is that what it is? Maybe I got it bad. That's really weird. Let me try one more time. The HR Gator, I think that is. Christian love. Yeah, that ain't. Would Jesus do that? Don't ask me for shit mentality. Is that what Jesus would do? You're big boy to take out the loan. You're a big boy to pay that loan. Next time, plan accordingly. Exactly. Dude, bro. Exactly. You took out the loan. You were a big boy to do it. You better be a big boy to find. Yeah, like I said, don't ask me for shit. Just word it a different way. Whatever your situation is, you found a way to get in it. You need to find a way to get out of it. Don't ask me for shit. Jesus fed the 5,000 and then the 4,000. He made the right sound. He made the right sound cold-hearted, and it ain't that bad. It is. If you don't believe a person should have health care even if they can't afford it, I mean, you say it ain't cold-hearted. Kids shouldn't have free lunch if their parents don't have the money. I mean, there are places where they're getting rid of free lunch in school. It is kind of cold-hearted. I mean, I'm just simply saying, if you want to get rid of social programs and go back to a self-reliant society, that is cold-hearted. Certainly, if you're going to have an environment where you're going to have a self-reliant society and you're not going to be forcing corporations to do anything for people. You're going to leave it up to the corporations to pay people whatever they deem they're worth. And if anybody's struggling, you're not going to help them out either. It is kind of cold-hearted. In my opinion, it is. I am for free healthcare and education. Okay. No damn kid should go hungry. I agree with that. Sean, glad you said that. It's not in the Bible. It's a Chinese proverb. All right, for you folks on TikTok, give me a second. I'm going to reset the live. I don't know why I'm not able to take up a single caller. So we'll give it a second. On YouTube real quick, Dan Adams is mentally ill. And I seen your comment there, Yul Adamus. I said, if you're a big boy enough to keep going underpaid by a corporation in inflation times, then be a big boy and pay those bills and get you another job from another corporation in inflation times. Yeah, that's the point I'm making. Don't ask me for shit. If you're working for a corporation and they're not paying you properly, as you say, if you're a big boy and big enough to keep getting underpaid, if you're dumb enough to keep working for an employer that's not paying you properly, go work for somebody that will. I mean, it's don't ask me for shit. You're just wording. At the end of the day, all of my advice is going to involve me not helping you out at all. Don't ask me for shit. I'll tell you to get a job. I'll tell you to wise up. I'll tell you to go back to school. Everything I tell you is going to involve me not giving you anything. All I'm going to give you is advice. Don't ask me for shit. That's kind of the mindset of the right. It really is. Don't ask me for shit. I mean, it's just summed up in a different way. The lie is that you need college education to make a good living. True. There is some validity to that. January 6th was not peaceful, and an officer lost their life. Well, Trump said that, Nikolai Campbell. Trump said that nobody was killed on January 6th. Let me try the TikTok side of the owl again and see if we can bring up some callers so you're not just listening to my ass all day. A lot of you folks disagree with what I'm saying. I appreciate you come on and counter me. That's what we do here. We'll just go straight to the live. Voting red is voting for Satan. I don't know about that, Nana. Voting red is voting for Satan. Damn, that's cruel. Jesus. Oh my God. January 6th was as peaceful as George Floyd. I don't know where to speak on that. January 6th was as peaceful as George Floyd. Craig Halpin, I always appreciate your comments in the comment section, but we don't agree on it. I don't know. How are you comparing January 6th to George Floyd? Make that make sense. By the way, it didn't get a lot of video coverage, but there were several protesters, and I'll call them protesters. I won't call them insurrectionists. We can fill in the blank. But there were several protesters on January 6th chanting, "I can't breathe." They were all white men. Many of them wearing MAGA and Trump hats and waving the Trump flag, and they were all yelling, "I can't breathe." On January 6th. I don't know if any of you saw the footage, but there is video of that out there. And I don't know what they meant. I personally took it as they were making light of what happened to George Floyd, but you can take it any way you want. They were calling for the vice president's neck. Yeah, that is true. Trump is the biggest patriot. He survived a made-up helicopter hard landing. Willie Brown, Mayor Brown was never in a helicopter with Donna, but it must be true. Yeah, Trump said that him and Willie Brown almost went. I mean, he had a really elaborate story. You know someone, and I'll go to the box, I'll try to box on TikTok. But you know something, when you hear a really, sometimes you think, some people are making up some bullshit, they're lying to you. But when somebody give you a really detailed story, you're like, yeah, that might be for real. Because, I mean, all these details. He said that him and Willie Brown were in a helicopter having a conversation. Willie Brown just happened to be volunteering all kinds of bad information about Kamala Harris, somebody that Trump does not know, has never met. Just happened to be in a helicopter giving him all kinds of bad information about Kamala Harris. The helicopter began to crash. This is what Trump said. They almost didn't make it out. And Willie Brown told Trump all sorts of bad things about Kamala Harris and how he didn't like her. Willie Brown, by the way, Mayor Willie Brown, was interviewed a few hours after Trump said that and just literally tore all of that shit to shreds. Spoke very honorably of Kamala Harris, favorably of her, and said everything Trump said was a lie. Trump gave a detailed story, so I don't know. Let me go back to the box. Why he would do that other than just to shame Kamala, I don't know. The man slept with Kamala Harris like 30, 40 years ago. It is completely irrelevant. Let's try bring it up. I tried James. Box is fucked up today. One more time. Let me try. Yeah, I don't know what's going on with the box. Build a wall and build the wall 20 feet higher. I personally don't have a problem with the wall. I believe it'll be a waste of money, but look, any nation has a right to secure its borders. If it makes people feel comfortable, to quote Sheryl Crow, if it makes you happy, build a damn wall. Now, fact is, what do we blame immigrants for? Fentanyl, child trafficking, and they're coming here to take black jobs. All of that shit predominantly happens through legal point of entry. So when Trump talked about building a wall with a big door in it, that's where it's all going to come through, in the door. People are not running through the desert with a bunch of kids. Most of that stuff's coming. They come across the border, drugs hidden all in their car, in their tires, in their bodies. But they're coming through a legal point of entry. Border Patrol catches a lot of shit coming in this country through a legal point of entry. So you can imagine if they're catching this much, how much are they not catching? So you can build a wall. I'm fine with it. It will, I don't say might, it will cut it down some. But we had Trump in office for 4 years bragging about how secure the border was. Did anybody in this country have a difficult time getting high? Was there any shortage of narcotics coming from the southern border under the Trump administration? Were there no children being trafficked when Trump was president? Were there no black jobs being competed with? All that shit was happening when Trump was president as well. All of it was. And he was bragging about how secure the border was at that time. I got somebody right next to me sitting on the motorcycle, revving it up. Jesus Christ. So at the end of the day, I'm fine with the wall, but it's not going to. Look, the reason all that shit is here is simple. There's an American demand for it. Americans want what they're bringing here. And as long as you got Americans that want it, it's going to be here. Americans want the drugs. They want the cheap labor that competes for black jobs. And they want the children being trafficked. They want all of that shit. And there's going to be, as long as there's a demand for it and people willing to pay for it, there are going to be Americans that contribute to it coming here. Everybody's making money. Going to the box again, we'll try it one more time. James, good afternoon. A lie does care who tells it as long as it gets told. James, good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Hey, the box is working. So what do you think? What am I getting wrong here?
Which part?
Well, first of all, nobody got killed on January 6th. What say you?
I do believe, correct me if I'm wrong, there was one woman who died.
Then why is Trump saying nobody died?
I don't know. I've never heard him say that, but
said it yesterday. He said it yesterday during that interview.
I didn't catch all of it. I caught the tail end of it. When was it in there?
You know, that's a good question. I don't have it because I did a show last night and I actually had the actual time slots on the interview where you could go right to it. I don't have all that with me, but it was certainly on my show last night. I'll see if I can find that because I had it right down to the second in which he started saying it. But yeah, he said nobody died on January 6th.
I believe you, but
yeah. Okay, fair enough.
My information, that's not true.
Okay. So was it peaceful?
Was it peaceful? No, I do believe people got hurt. There was rioting, and from what I've seen, it definitely wasn't peaceful.
He said that as well, that we had a peaceful transition of power from Trump to Biden. He said that too.
Well, he could be referring to himself personally. I don't think him and Obama duked it out or anything. Or not Obama.
Well, you do understand. You do understand a violent transition of power is going to be more than just between two people. If you say you got a peaceful transfer of power, that's talking about the country, not two men.
Well, this is Trump we're talking about, so God only knows what perspective he was looking at when he said that.
All right. Let me give you another one he said. He claims that Governor Tim Walz of Minnesota in his state is proposing legislation that's favorable to pregnancy terminations in the 7th, 8th, and 9th month. He also said that women in Minnesota, after giving birth, along with the doctor, will put the baby to the side and decide whether they want to end its life or not. So you got a baby that came out of the womb healthy and alive, cut the cord, and the doctor and the mom are now deciding whether they want to terminate it or not. Do you believe that?
God help us if that's actually going on. I would like to think that we do not have people that have gone that far.
Okay. Why do you think Trump is saying this stuff then?
I have no idea. I haven't heard anything about that in Minnesota. I did hear something similar to those lines. I don't know. It was like a couple years ago in New York that somebody was proposing that, but I think the first time I've heard something like that, but I have not seen anything clear cut, any laws passed or anything like that.
Now, are you a Trump supporter?
Currently, I plan on voting for him because I haven't seen a better option.
Okay, fair enough. Now, he also stated he had a larger crowd on January 6th than Martin Luther King during the I Have a Dream speech. Think there's any accuracy to that?
It's funny that you mentioned that. After you, I was watching your show yesterday, and you brought that up, and I went and looked. He did have some massive crowds there, but I love the Martin Luther King one. That was like insanely big. So, but I mean, it was no angles were exactly the same, so it's kind of hard to compare. I wasn't there. I wasn't in either one of them. So I personally couldn't say which one was larger, but I would think Martin Luther King's was bigger from what I saw.
Yeah. Why would he even bring it up?
Well, this guy's competitive. He's the best at everything. Just ask him. It doesn't matter. He can eat ice cream better than everybody. It don't matter.
Well, if he's going around, so then let me ask you this question. If he's going around exaggerating like that and we're used to it, how does it look to criticize Tim Walz for suggesting he carried a rifle in war or exaggerating on his career? If we're okay with Trump exaggerating on COVID, a pandemic, by the way, in the middle of a pandemic, saying he knows more about COVID than the actual virologists and folks that are dealing with it. If he can get away with that, what's so bad about what Tim Walz is doing?
Well, I am not going to speak on the military thing. I have a brother that served. I'd leave that to him, whether he'd be offended by that or not. I don't think exaggerations and doing that stuff is good either way. Both sides do it. Everybody puts their spin on it. Doesn't make it right.
All right, fair enough. But you do tend to vote for Trump, certainly over Kamala Harris.
Solely based on policies.
Give me some examples.
Trump tends to be more free market, allowing things to do what they want to. Kamala's more wanting to get involved, putting policies in place, putting laws in place, and I just think there's too much of that these days. I think we have way too many laws on the book. I can't remember what Supreme Court justice just came out. He wrote a book or something talking about it.
Yeah, Roberts. I think Roberts did that. Yeah, Roberts did that.
Roberts, that's it. Yep. You say like we're all committing like a felony every day, and we don't even know it because there's so many laws on the book.
Yeah.
And I think that's a lot of our problems.
Yeah, I don't disagree that there's a lot of laws on the books to make citizens get in trouble, but you do realize Trump stated that he intends to give police immunity from prosecution.
I did see that. And there again, it's Trump talking off the cuff. I don't personally believe that he could do it or ever would do that. I think he was more or less trying to talk about, from what I saw and the whole scope of the conversation, about making sure that cops aren't afraid to do their job, not afraid to get involved in a situation they deem that maybe like something could go wrong there because they're afraid that somebody's going to sue them for something stupid.
So what can you do for cops to make them less afraid?
Basically, avoid frivolous lawsuits. Allow them to do their job. Obviously, there needs to be oversight. I do not believe all cops are good. I think there's bad people everywhere. It don't matter. Republican, Democrat, liberal, I don't care what flag you're flying. There's good and bad people everywhere. And the bad people need to be taken care of.
I mean, do you have any examples of cops being victims of frivolous lawsuits? I mean, they already have a significant amount of immunity. Are people really successfully imposing frivolous lawsuits on police? Is that a major issue?
I do watch these videos every once in a while. They'll come across my feed of these guys, they say they're basically standing up for their constitutional rights. They're personally going in there and videotaping and just, you ever see those?
Yeah.
They're
Audit. Yeah, I see him all the time. Guy walks down the street with open carrying, and a cop come up fucking with him, and he challenges the cop, and the cop basically does something that's illegal, and then the guy gets to sue him or whatever. But I don't think the goal is to allow cops to violate people's rights with, impunity. The goal should be to make sure the cops know the damn law. I mean, what them folks are doing is generally 100% legal, but the cops don't know the laws. So they start arresting the people and harassing it. Why not just spend, when we talk about defunding the police, why not just spend the money to train cops so that they know the law?
100% agree with you. I think all cops need to understand what the Constitution is, what the laws are. They should be able to quote them back. They should be not as good as a lawyer, but they need to have the basics down to understand what they can and cannot do.
Yeah. And that's what I'm saying is when you say you want like Trump states, I want the cops to be able to do their job without fear of being sued. Yeah, it's because you don't know what you're doing, and he's trying to give you protection so that if you fuck up, you don't get sued for it. No, just use the money to make sure he don't fuck up.
Well, there again, I think cops should be able to be personally sued. I do not believe the city should be paying out millions and millions of dollars to these people for that. Yeah. Bankrupt them. Make them own that. I'm big on personal responsibility.
Okay. All right. Then all of this back to blue stuff then got to calm down to some degree. You got to hold someone. Holding police accountable should not be viewed as being anti-cop.
Correct.
Yeah. All right. Well, I don't know if you're in the right party for that, but I got to move it on, James.
I appreciate you, man.
Always a pleasure.
Keep it good.
Thank you.
Yep, thank you.
All right. Looking in the comments, and the economy was never better, you ghoul. I haven't heard somebody call somebody a ghoul since I watched cartoons. I thought only one or maybe even two people died on January 6th. That being one of those protesters. Why do people blatantly spew misinformation in this terminal hatred? In my opinion, Trump is responsible for why January 6th continues to be part of the dialogue. We should have moved on from January 6th. Also, January 6th should have never happened. It should have never happened. What Trump and his protesters went to protest on January 6th, most of that is not accurate. I mean, on January 6th, they would have told you about Dominion voting machine switching votes. A lot of the stuff because those folks on January 6th were only 2 months. January 6th was 2 months and 2 days after the 2020 election. There was nowhere near enough evidence for them to be acting like that. In fact, the Trump administration was still in power and still investigating the 2020 election. So the idea that they showed up on January 6th, 2 months and 2 days after the election, talking about stop the steal and how the Democrats would change, there was no evidence that close to the damn election. It was 100% acting in concert to what they had been told. Now, I understand a lot of folks saw Trump ahead, went to bed and woke up and Biden was ahead. Didn't look right to them. That was it. You don't have access to Dominion voting machines or Jewish space lasers or polling places or Ruby Freeman. The folks at the rally don't have access to none of that stuff. At best, they can say, I went to bed, Trump was winning, I woke up, Biden was winning, that doesn't look right. All of the rest of the claims, you're hearing it on TV. You're hearing it from right-wing media. They had no reason at all to be acting that insane on January 6th. And in my opinion, Trump didn't have a reason to invite them there and tell them to stop the steal. He didn't have any evidence at that point. An election still had took place. He still doesn't have proper evidence that the election was stolen from him. What Trump has, what the right has, what Dinesh D'Souza has, Mike Lindell has, is a bunch of things that look suspicious to them, and they're automatically attributing that to Democratic fraud. Never considering what I see looks suspicious and it might actually be being implemented by a Republican. No, I just believe that Democrats cheat and Republicans are all honest. And that is a reason why they'll never be able to prove in court that Biden allegedly took the election or whatever, because most of the evidence is made on assumptions. You name what you believe happened, and none of it works without adding an assumption. No matter what you bring up, it does not work without adding an assumption to it. They're closing polling offices, okay? But I got to assume they're doing it because Democrats are cheating. They won't let me stand 6 feet over a polling person's shoulders so I can see what they're doing. They're making me stand 25 feet back. So I'm assuming they're cheating for the Democratic Party. Ruby Freeman passing around USB drives like vials of crack. So I'm assuming there's information on there that benefit the Democrats. Dead people voting. I'm assuming that they voted for Democrats. 2,000 mules, seen it 6 times. Paid to see it once. He's showing cell phone data, showing people coming to the same mailbox over and over again, stuffing ballots. So I'm assuming they're doing all of that on behalf of the... Not one iota of, Republicans can cheat. No, we never thought of that. Anything that doesn't look right, it has to be cheating being done by the Democrats. That's why in court, Trump will never be able to prove his case, because the first thing any lawyer is going to ask is, how do you know this? You found a bunch of, you say you saw a lot of dead people voting. Did you see what was on the ballots? How do you know that those votes cast on behalf of somebody dead were not for the Republican Party? Well, we never thought that. We assumed it was Democrats. Everything that you're seeing that looks suspicious, unless you see what's on the ballot, it might actually be benefiting the Republican Party. But the Republicans believe the Democrats cheated, so they automatically assumed everything that looked suspicious was bad behavior done by the Democrats. You can't just make that assumption. Republicans can cheat, and they can go to Democratic neighborhoods and do it. If Antifa, if Black Lives Matter can go to a Trump gathering on January 6th and cause mayhem, you're going to tell me a Republican can't go to a black neighborhood and vote fraudulently on behalf of the Republican Party? Until you can show us on those ballots, you have no case. You can't go to court and say everything looks suspicious. Okay, yeah, it doesn't look right. But that doesn't mean it's Democrats. It could be suspicious shit being done on behalf of Republicans. And the Republican Party will never be able to prove that. I would also submit to you, Trump's on television several weeks before the 2020 election. The polls were suggesting that Biden was about to win. Biden was about to win North Carolina, a Republican state. Biden was leading in North Carolina. Trump was on television saying there was widespread fraud in North Carolina. Right before Election Day, Trump caught up with Biden in the polls and ultimately won North Carolina's Electoral College votes. You never heard him talk about the fraud again. So you're admitting they're cheating in North Carolina. But the minute the votes go to you, you don't care about the cheating anymore. Based on Trump's own admission, he may have not won North Carolina. You're on television saying they're cheating in this state. But the minute the state goes to you, you no longer care about the cheating. How do we know you didn't win? You might have lost North Carolina. You're on TV making it clear there was widespread fraud in this state. Why are you out taking credit for it? That's the issue I have, is that Trump isn't about a free and fair election. He's about winning. If he was about a free and fair election, he should have took all of the fraud he could come up with in all 50 states. Took that to the Supreme Court and said, let's have a do-over. There's a lot of shit that don't look right. Let's just have a do-over. You don't just jump on TV and say I won by a landslide, which is what he did. Same thing in the state of Pennsylvania. Trump sued the state of, Texas, on behalf of Trump, sued the state of Pennsylvania, suggesting that they made changes to the election process, mail-in votes. During the pandemic, they made changes to their voting process in Pennsylvania. They sued them saying it goes against the Pennsylvania Constitution, and what they did was wrong. Texas sued Pennsylvania. When they did that, the governor of Montana appeared on This Week with George Stephanopoulos and stated, we made the exact same changes Pennsylvania made, and Trump won our state, and we're not a party to the lawsuit. If what Pennsylvania did is wrong, it's wrong here too. But they didn't sue us because he won here. That's another issue that never came up. And to this day, Republicans hold Pennsylvania accountable for their changes, and they don't concern themselves with what the changes in Montana were made. No concern at all. The governor of Montana said we made the exact same changes as they did in Pennsylvania. All of that's in there. Also, you watch 2,000 Mules. They do an investigation on the 2020 election. Look how it was done. They go to Arizona, they go to Phoenix. They go to Wisconsin, they go to Milwaukee. They go to Georgia, they go to Atlanta. They go to Michigan, they go to Detroit. What's happening in Savannah, Georgia? What's happening in Upper Michigan? Eau Claire, Wisconsin? You're deliberately going to Democratic areas to check for fraud and completely ignoring the Republican parts of the state. So if Republicans are cheating in this state, you're not even going to know about it. Your investigation is biased in itself. You're hanging around every mailbox and you're taking photos and cell tower in Democratic areas. Let me see what you did, cell phone coverage, in rural parts of the state. Oh, we didn't go there. We only went to Democratic areas. We assumed Democrats were cheating, and that's all we checked for. So if any Republican cheated, they just got away with it. This is why I keep telling you, in court, it'll never hold up. There's just simply too many assumptions. Anybody that walked out after seeing 2,000 Mules, believing it was the know-all, end-all to show fraud took place, walked into the theater already believing Democrats cheated. If you had an unbiased opinion of the election and you saw that movie, you would immediately, this doesn't prove shit. This doesn't prove anything. This whole film is biased. And by the way, would anyone on the right believe criticism about Trump that came from Al Sharpton, Rachel Maddow, CNN? You would immediately say that is a biased source. Dinesh D'Souza? Really? The guy that Trump pardoned? That's the guy that's going to be a reliable source? Would anyone believe a liberal source that gave you some kind of inside information on Trump that was pardoned by Obama? That is about as biased of I don't even know where to go with that. But using Dinesh D'Souza, the guy who received a pardon from Trump, that's completely biased. I don't think the right even ever thought of all of this stuff. And I see the comments, Nautico says MSNBC is opinion news. Well, Fox, CNN, they all ran like that. Anyhow, I appreciate the smaller program. We're going to be on tonight. Certainly a issue we have with TikTok. I don't even want to mention the likes. They're far lower. Everything, the whole way the program was ran. But hopefully tonight we can make it right. It's your boy Tim, the handsome liberal. I gotta go. All right, look at it in the comments. Later Fool says hood living. I like the name. Says Later Fool. Yeah, that is I. At least the world was at peace. gas was cheaper, the economy was great with Trump. All of the Black Lives Matter riots happening under Trump, the world was, America was not at peace. All of that shit was going on during Trump. Under Biden, you haven't had a lot of riots. Catch you guys later.